Hello, dear book lovers. In today's video, we'll be discussing one of the most shocking dystopias in literary history, Ray Bradbury's masterpiece, Fahrenheit 451. This novel is not just fiction, it is also a dark warning about the future of humanity. It depicts a world where books are banned, thought is suppressed, and society is enslaved to the screen. Fahrenheit 451 takes its name from the temperature at which book paper burns, 451 degrees Fahrenheit, or approximately 233 degrees Celsius. Today, we will explore this novel in depth together. First, we will look at a summary, then we will get to know the characters, unravel the themes, and finally discuss how relevant Bradbury's message is today. If you're ready, let's begin our journey into this dystopian universe where books are burned. Summary of the novel: Fahrenheit 451 takes us to a future where free thought and individuality have been eradicated. In this future, books are banned. Reading, thinking, and questioning are considered dangerous. The only thing people are supposed to do is have fun, spend time in front of screens, and obey orders without question. Our main character, Guy Montag, is a fireman, but he doesn't fight fires in the way we know it. In this society, the job of firefighters is to burn books. Instead of hoses, they carry flamethrowers. If someone is reported for having books in their home, Montag and his colleagues go and burn the books, reducing the house to ashes. At first, Montag feels nothing amiss with this order. He does his job, lives as society dictates. His wife, Mildred, is a woman almost entirely addicted to television screens. Their walls are covered with giant screens, and Mildred spends her days with the virtual characters she calls family. For Montag, life is monotonous and meaningless, but one day, a young and curious girl appears before Montag, Clarisse McClellan. Clarisse is completely different from other people in society. She still looks at the sky, enjoys the rain, observes nature, and asks questions. She asks Montag questions that seem simple but are profound. Are you happy? Have you ever read a book? These questions spark a flame in Montag's mind. For the first time, he begins to question his life. Clarisse's naturalness and curiosity make Montag realize the emptiness in his soul. Soon, Montag begins to wonder if books are truly dangerous. During a firefighting operation, he secretly hides a few books. He begins to read them and discovers how books nourish the human mind. This forbidden act is the beginning of a path of no return for him. Montag's change is noticed by his boss, Captain Beatty. Beatty is actually a man who knows books well. Even though he knows he must burn them, he also knows their contents by heart. Standing on the side of authority, Beatty constantly tells Montag that books are harmful, that they make people unhappy, that they cause chaos. In his view, the destruction of books is essential for the peace of society. However, Montag is affected by the power of meaning he finds in books. With this growing feeling of rebellion inside him, he secretly meets an elderly professor named Faber. Faber is a secret intellectual who argues that books are indispensable for freedom of information and thought. He guides Montag, teaching him how to resist. Montag can no longer return to his old life. One day, during a superficial conversation with Mildred's friends, he can't hold back and reads them a poem. This becomes a huge scandal. Montag's secret books are exposed. Mildred reports her own husband. Montag then goes to his own home with Beatty and the fire brigade. Beatty asks him to burn his own books. Montag does so, but at this point, an irreversible break occurs. During the argument, Montag kills Beatty with a flamethrower. He is now a fugitive. The city police pursue him to capture him. Montag escapes, takes refuge in the woods, and meets a group of people there. These people are living books. Each has memorized a book and stored it in their memory. Thus, banned works are passed from mouth to mouth, and books continue to live on in people's minds. At the end of the novel, Montag and his new friends hope to sow the seeds of a new future far from the city, in the heart of nature. At that very moment, the city is bombed and destroyed in a great war. The book-hating civilization destroys itself. Montag and his friends remain as a beacon of hope for rebuilding humanity's wisdom. Fahrenheit 451, A Future Without Books. Ray Bradbury's dystopian novel, Fahrenheit 451, is not just a story about books being burned. This work also tells of the human mind being plunged into darkness, memory being erased, and individual thought being destroyed. Books are like the memory of humanity. Without them, we are cut off from our past. We build our future with blind steps, the absence of books, and human memory. In the city where Montag lives, people lead lives filled with fun, superficial, fake happiness. Surrounded by television screens, earpieces, and artificial dialogue, these people have distanced themselves from thinking, questioning, and remembering. Bradbury conveys a very important message here. Burning books burns not only paper, but also the human mind, memory, and spirit. Throughout the novel, we realize that books do not merely convey information, they also preserve human pain, joy, dreams, and nightmares. Books are the collective memory of society. The destruction of books in flames during the raid on Montag's home symbolizes the erasure of memory, the psychological impact of censorship. In a world where books are banned, people cannot freely express their thoughts. Censorship is not only an external pressure, but also becomes an internal chain. People choose to remain silent because they are afraid of saying the wrong thing. At this point, Bradbury's message becomes even more frightening. Censorship takes its most dangerous form when people silence themselves. Montag's wife, Mildred, is the most striking example of this. Living between television walls, constantly sedated with drugs, Mildred cannot bear the weight of thinking. Her existence is Bradbury's critique of the loneliness of the modern individual. Mildred and those like her are not afraid of books, but of thinking, the footsteps of social collapse. In the world Bradbury creates, war is a constant backdrop. Cities are bombed, people disappear, but no one questions it. Because a society that does not think also does not know how to resist. The absence of books is not just individual blindness, it is also social paralysis. This truth, which Montag realizes, drives him to an inner rebellion. Because without books, humanity forgets its past, and a society that forgets its past repeats the same mistakes over and over again. Here, Bradbury reminds us of the importance of history. Books exist so that the mistakes of the past are not carried into the future. The power and resistance of books. The most hopeful moment in the novel is when Montag leaves the city and joins the book people living in the forest. These people have memorized books, transforming them into memory. Even if books are physically destroyed, their words and meanings live on in the human mind. This scene shows us that the true power of books lies not in paper, but in the human spirit. They can be burned, banned, hidden, but they can never be completely destroyed, because every book can be reborn in a person's mind and heart. Bradbury's vision of the future. Ray Bradbury wrote this book in 1953, but note how true his warnings have become in the world we live in today. Social media, superficial content, and quickly consumed information are reducing the time people devote to books every day. Screens entertain us, but they also dull our ability to think. Today, we can see the television walls Bradbury imagined in our giant screened phones and constantly on broadcasts. Mildred's earpieces are identical to the headphones everyone carries in their pockets today. So Fahrenheit 451 is not just a novel, it is also a prophecy. Bradbury showed us what the future could be like years ago. On the meaning of books. Ultimately, Fahrenheit 451 tells us why books are indispensable. Books are not just repositories of knowledge. They also hold our emotions, our humanity, and our sense of self. When we read a book, we touch another person's mind and heart. That is why the absence of books means the absence of humanity. Montag's journey is a message to us all. If we stop thinking, questioning, and reading, we extinguish the fire within ourselves. Montag's awakening. Montag is initially a loyal part of the system. His job is to burn books, that is, to destroy thoughts. But one night, he meets a young girl named Clarice. Clarice's questions, "Are you happy?" or "What are you thinking?" spark a flame in Montag's mind. This spark grows throughout the novel, turning into a fire. The striking point here is this: Montag's mind is awakened not by books, but by simple questions. In other words, the power of thought is as valuable as the content of books. When books are banned, society becomes alienated not only from knowledge, but also from the ability to ask questions. The symbolism of Clarice is more than a character. She is the voice of free thought. Her curious, questioning, and naive nature brings out the humanity buried within Montag. Clarice's swift disappearance from the story actually shows how intolerant the system is of such differences. In this sense, Clarice is not a victim, but a spark. Clarice's absence creates a huge void in Montag's life, but it also accelerates Montag's mental journey. Even when a person is lost, their ideas can live on. The Society of Blank Screens. One of Ray Bradbury's most striking predictions is the takeover of the world by screens. The wall televisions in the book are incredibly similar to today's giant screens, social media addiction, and even virtual reality worlds. While people experience fake happiness on screens, they drift away from real relationships. Montag's wife, Mildred, is a vivid example of this situation. Mildred spends all day talking to virtual characters she calls family on her screen. She She has become so alienated that she doesn't even notice Montag's inner crisis. The book reveals a very painful truth here. When people disconnect from real relationships, they also lose their thoughts. Books becoming forbidden fruit. Human nature is drawn to what is forbidden. In Fahrenheit 451, as books are banned, people begin to see them as dangerous treasures. When Montag secretly starts hiding books, he is actually reaching not only for knowledge, but for freedom. Here lies Bradbury's clever allegory. Books = free thought. The act of burning = the pressure of the system. Curiosity = man's innate resistance. The burning of books is not merely the destruction of paper, it is the destruction of memory, imagination, and alternative futures. Montag's rebellion. At a certain point, Montag can no longer bear it. He begins to hear the screams of the words contained within the burning books. His rebellion is less an individual uprising and more a search for a return to the essence of being human. Because a person is only human as long as they think, question, and inquire. Bradbury gives us a very clear message here. If we lose books, we first lose our freedom to think, then our humanity. Montag's inner transformation and the fire of knowledge. Ray Bradbury's character, Montag, transforms from an ordinary fireman into a warrior of thought. At the beginning of the story, he is a loyal servant of the system. He burns books, carries out orders without question, and accepts the rules imposed by society as correct. However, Clarissa's innocent questions, his wife's soullessness, and the mysterious allure of books spark a flame in his mind. Bradbury conveys a very important message here. What transforms a person is the courage to touch information that is forbidden or feared. For the first time, Montag realizes that books contain not only words, but also the doors to another world. At this point, fire becomes a metaphor not only for destruction, but also for awakening, the suppression of knowledge, and modern media. One of the most striking aspects of the novel is the screens that blind society. People spend hours in front of giant television panels, forming emotional bonds with artificial programs they call family. Montag's wife, Mildred, is a typical example of this, a character who is indifferent to books, afraid of questioning thoughts, and living in a completely fake happiness. When we think about it today, Bradbury's dystopian depiction is frighteningly accurate. Social media addiction, algorithm-driven agendas, information pollution, all echo the mass sedation system in the world of Fahrenheit 451. People turn to quickly consumed content instead of reading, and deep thought gives way to superficial knowledge. Bradbury seems to have seen today, from 70 years ago, the symbol of resistance. The book, People Montag's journey, takes on a different dimension when he escapes the city and takes refuge in the forest. Here, he meets the book people. This community consists of individuals who memorize a book and carry it in their memory. They are living libraries that ensure knowledge does not disappear in the face of an oppressive regime. This scene carries Bradbury's most hopeful message. Knowledge can never be completely destroyed because it lives in human memory. Fire can burn books, but it cannot destroy ideas. When Montag joins this community, he is no longer on a personal quest. He has taken on the task of protecting humanity's future. The dangers of a bookless future. Fahrenheit 451 is not just a dystopia, but also a warning. Bradbury asks us, if we lose books, are we not saying goodbye not only to knowledge, but also to our identity? Doesn't a society that forgets thought, history, and imagination actually lose the essence of humanity? The novel demonstrates how technology can be used to silence people and how censorship can paralyze a society. In this sense, Fahrenheit 451 is one of the cornerstones of modern dystopias, alongside Orwell's 1984 and Huxley's Brave New World. Implications for today reading Fahrenheit 451 today, we are confronted with the following questions. Does screen addiction dull the individual's imagination? Does settling for fast content instead of reading books bring us closer to Montag's society? How should we resist in order not to lose free thought? Bradbury's answer is clear. Embrace books, because books carry not only knowledge, but also empathy, history, culture, and the depths of the human spirit. Fahrenheit 451 reminds us why books are indispensable. Montag's inner revolution represents humanity's need for freedom and truth, and most importantly, Bradbury's message still holds true. If we stop thinking, if we give up reading, then we lose not only books, but ourselves.